Lagos State Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu has called on state legislatures across the nation to prioritize the passage and implementation of protective laws that guarantee sustained funding, end stigma, and support inclusive service delivery regarding persons with HIV. Sanwo-Olu, who was represented by the Deputy Governor Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, gave the charge at the closing ceremony of the 7th National Council on AIDS (NCA) held at the Landmark Event Center, Victoria Island, Lagos, calling for stronger interstate collaboration and sustained federal leadership. In addition, the governor proposed the institutionalization of quarterly inter-SACA review meetings for the nation to continuously track progress and adapt swiftly, adding that the nation must shift from dependency to sustainability, from fragmented responses to coordinated systems, and from ad hoc programming to long-term strategic planning. Sanwo-Olu also highlighted some of the measures the Lagos State government has put in place to integrate HIV services into its broader health system, which includes expanding access to community-based testing and treatment, and also strengthening linkages to care. It revealed that the state government launched the Lagos State HIV Trust Fund as a bold step towards sustainable domestic financing, adding that his administration will continue to deepen collaboration with faith-based, traditional, and private sector actors. Sanwo-Olu added that as global donor support gradually diminishes, it has become imperative for the nation to take full ownership of its national HIV response and build sustainable, resilient systems that can outlast policy shifts and funding cycles. The governor concluded that the council must not become an annual routine but must serve as a launchpad for deeper commitment, wider ownership, and faster impact, urging that the experience gathered and resolution at the 3-day council should not remain on paper, but they must find life in the nation's budgets, its policies, its legislative actions, and above all, in the lives of the people.
So it brings together delegates from all the 36 states and the FCT, the SACA leaders, NACA governing board, community representative, researchers, traditional institutions, and development partners. The resolution adopted during this council must therefore, I'm sure, reflect collective wisdom, experience, and aspiration of our nation in fighting this menace. But they must not remain on paper. They must find lines in our budget of various states, in our policies, our legislative actions, and above all, in the lives of our people. Because the overall intent must also then be that the rate of contacting HIV must continue to slow down. We must educate our people to understand that in the first case, there are ways to prevent the contraction of this illness. So here in Lagos, we understand that commitment is not just declared by words, it is proven by action. Sustainability must not be a slogan, it must be a strategic priority. That is why we have continued to integrate HIV service into our broader health system, expanding access to community-based testing and treatment, and strengthening linkages to care. We launched the Lagos State HIV Trust Fund as a bold step towards sustainable domestic funding, and we continue to deepen collaboration with faith-based, traditional, and private sector actors. Our ongoing reform of the Lagos State HIV anti-stigma law demonstrates our belief in dignity, inclusion, and justice for all people, irrespective of living with HIV or not. We are aligning our HIV response with our universal health coverage agenda because health must be equitable, accessible, and people-driven. So I must, at this time, appreciate the outstanding leadership of the National Agency of AIDS Control, and that's the DG, Dr. Temitope Ilori. Thank you very much for what you do. And of course, the leadership of the Lagos State AIDS Control Agency under Dr. Folakemi Anemasha. Our unwavering commitment, expertise, and the entire team have not only ensured the success of the council, but has elevated Lagos State credibility in the national HIV response. But we know that as
members of the body of permanent secretaries and members of SACA and the members of the press that are here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you for choosing Lagos as the venue for the 7th meeting of the Council. I want to sincerely congratulate you for the hard work that you've put into the resolutions. As the Commissioner for Health, we're going to take all these resolutions and define how we can place them into policy decisions moving forward under the changing landscape of global policy support around HIV, AIDS, and other health issues that are prevailing in Nigeria and Africa. Sustainability is obviously the central theme, and I'm glad that you've placed so much focus on the issues of sustainability. As a country and as a state, we need to now take more ownership of HIV. We need to be responsible for managing the profile of HIV/AIDS in our respective environments. That means we need to make the cost of managing HIV cheaper, more accessible, and in a more integrated fashion. We also know that HIV runs along with tuberculosis. So if we're not managing HIV properly, its cousin tuberculosis jumps on the bandwagon. And so there's always an issue around the syndemic of HIV and tuberculosis. And both of them are security threats to us in Lagos and to us in Nigeria. Now we're what are we doing in Lagos? We're very serious about domesticating the National Health Insurance Authority law that was passed in 2022 by the President Muhammadu Buhari, which states that we need to make sure that all Nigerians are carrying at least a social health insurance. Lagos has been very quick to domesticate this with an executive order in 2024, and we're in the process of developing the operational guidelines to be able to roll out the mandatory nature of at least social health insurance in Lagos, and at the same time build in components of the management of HIV such that it moves away from a budgetary allocation to one of pooled funding from insurance health financing mechanisms. We also need to focus on manufacture. We need to make sure that we're manufacturing both the consumables that are necessary for diagnosing and managing HIV, but also the drugs. And so Lagos State is developing a very advanced strategy at the free trade zone in Lekki to attract the manufacture of all kinds of pharmaceuticals, but we're focusing on HIV amongst others to make sure that we have at least a domestic capacity and repository for manufacturing cheaper drugs in Lagos. Now thank you. We're always very concerned about mother-to-child transmission. It is an awful thing for us to see children born with HIV. And so I want to congratulate both the National Council and the Lagos State Agency for doing everything possible to make sure that a child that comes into this world is not exposed to HIV as the first event of its life. And so we need to continue to focus on this aspect. At the end of the day, SACA, bringing it home, we need to identify all persons living with HIV. That is an ongoing activity. We need to identify where the hotspots are, drive a lot of public health awareness around the risks associated with transmission